We're losing our boys. I'm talking about that 5 to 15% of our most at-risk boys that we are losing to anxiety, depression, self-medication, suicide, and in some cases, gangs. Let's look at some facts. Adolescent boys are 4 times as likely as adolescent girls to commit suicide. Adolescent boys are 15 times as likely as adolescent girls to commit a major crime. Adolescent boys are twice as likely to be diagnosed with a learning disability, and adolescent boys are 4 times as likely to drop out of school. Our adolescent boys make up the minority of valedictorians and scholarship winners at our graduation ceremonies. So what is our cost to society? Well, we know this. If an adolescent boy, anywhere from the ages of 13 to 18, commits a major crime, from the day he's arrested, taken through the judicial system, court costs, lawyers' fees, judges, spend some time in jail, whether it's youth jail or adult jail, it doesn't really matter. They're released and then they go through the whole system of support that happens there and the support system through social services that is given to the victims' families. The actual cost to you, the taxpayers, is about $2 million. We have 8 chapters running right now from West Vancouver out to Abbotsford, and we're soon expanding to Vancouver Island and beyond. We service close to 350 boys. If we've kept every one of those boys out of this cycle of violence, we've saved our system $750 million, $750 million in actual costs. If we keep one boy out of that cycle of violence and out of that system, we've saved $2 million in the life of one boy, his family, and potential victims. Isn't one boy enough? Aren't all the boys enough? Thank you. So who are we? We're an after-school program that meets in a designated room in a school on a weekly basis. And we start every meeting with food. Go figure, teenage boys. Well, for some of the boys, it's the only meal of the day. For all of the boys, it settles them down, prepares them to listen and to learn. It gets them into a space, a headset, a place where they can actually listen to our speakers and be a part of what's happening there. The rules are simple. It's men only in the room. And there's a good reason for that, supported both by research and our own experience. What we know is that when a woman is introduced into the room, unless she's a guest speaker, the boys will clam up. They'll shut down. Why? Because they think that's a sign of weakness, of being soft, to expose their feelings, who they are, what they really want to talk about. So to make sure that we get to the core of the issues that are affecting these boys, we have men only in the room. And you know what? It's been working. The next thing we do is that we establish what we call a circle of trust. The rule here, again, is very simple. What's said in the room stays in the room. And we bring men in to talk about their own lives and their own successes. Not just successes financially or career, although that is important, but success in terms of what constitutes a good man. You see, a lot of our boys don't have positive men in their lives. They don't have a positive male role model that they can look up to, go to, and ask for advice, for guidance, to know which direction they should go into. And a lot of them live in single-family homes. And their moms are just trying to survive. They're trying to keep a roof over the head of their children. They're trying to keep food on the table. So there's not a lot of opportunity there for the type of role modeling and the type of conversations that these boys sometimes need. And you know what? The boys want to know what it means to be a good man. They truly do. They're sponges. They're sitting there. They're anticipating. So when we bring our men in, we ask them to do 2 things. Number 1, we ask them to tell their story to a degree to which they feel comfortable. Who are they? Where did they come from? What were the crossroads that they faced in their lives that helped them to become the man that they are today, the successful man? How did they access their moral compass when they've had to make tough decisions in their lives? How did they make those decisions? And were they all successful, or were there failures along the way? And we know there were. But how did they get to where they are today? And built into that conversation, we ask them to define what they think constitutes a good man. How does a good man treat women? How does a good man treat community, friends, family, themselves, others? And the boys start to absorb this. And what happens is over time, they start to develop their own moral compass. So that when they get to a situation, a place where they have to make another tough call, they can make that tough call because they've had the experience, they've met people, have gone before them who have had challenges and become good people. So these men come out and they share their stories, and they come from all walks of life. Our speakers are millionaires and billionaires, they're tradesmen and athletes, they're police officers, and believe it or not, former gangsters. And they all come out and they share the story with the boys. They talk about important moments in their lives, decisions they've had to make, how they treat other people, how they got to be who they are today. The questions go on, because there's a lot of Q&A with the kids at these sessions as well. And why do the men do it? Because they don't want these boys to have to struggle the way they may have. And what's really ironic, when you look at some of the photos on the screen here behind me, and you might recognize some of these guys because a few of them are celebrities, they often were those boys. They often came from the same circumstances. So there is a real concept there of connection. Of course, the formula works. I need you to know that our boys are staying in school, they're graduating at a greater rate, they're getting involved with teams and clubs, even some of them are taking on leadership roles. But I think what's most impressive for me sometimes is when we get that letter, that phone call, that email from a parent, and in particular those moms who are raising their boys alone, they say, he's changing at home, he's helping out, he's doing the dishes, taking his little sister to school, but most importantly, sir, he's staying out of trouble. And that's a huge relief on my heart and my shoulders, because I've got enough going on just trying to take care of my kids on a daily basis. So whatever you're doing, thank you. Thank you, taking that pressure off. We also know that socioeconomics do not determine risk. There are no socioeconomic boundaries to the work that we're doing. As I said earlier, we have a Boys Club chapter right here in West Vancouver, one of Canada's wealthiest communities. More than 42 boys are meeting on a weekly basis for these meetings and getting the kind of instruction and interaction that I'm talking about here. One of those boys came to me not so long ago and said, I think that a lot of the guys that are in the Boys Club network covet the life that I have, because we often bring the boys together from East Vancouver and North Vancouver and West Vancouver and share our resources and our speakers. I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, I've got 2 parents. I got 2 cars in the driveway. There's food in the fridge. We go on some pretty good holidays. I play hockey. I've got the best gear, and I even have private instruction for skating. He says, and my parents are good people. They're professionals. They're well respected in the community, and they're involved in so many things, so many committees. They're out there, and they're saving the whales, and they're saving the homeless, and they're helping people from third world countries come into Canada, get reintegrated. But somewhere along the line, they've forgotten about me. And I think that's why I get into trouble. And I think that's why I do the things that I do. And I think that's why I need this, why I need to be a part of this. So what this boy's telling us is what he's lacking is connectivity. A lot of our work is based on Dr. Gordon Neufeld's theory of connectivity. And we know that Dr. Neufeld talks about the fact that boys and girls want to belong, all right? They want to know that they can establish some trust. Dr. Neufeld's theory of attachment is very important to the work that we do. You see, the boys want to know that they have someone to go to, a positive adult, whether it's in the school, at home, in an organization like ours, on a team, a club, somewhere, that they can go to that adult and get the advice, the guidance that they need to become a good man. Because if they don't get it there, they're going to find it somewhere else. And they're often going to find it through a negative peer group. They're going to find it through negative adults, through the media. And in the worst cases, they're going to find it through gangs, because gangs are masters at telling boys at risk that they're the family they've been seeking. They're going to be there to back them up, bro. I'm there for you. We're going to take care of you. And that's where we lose our boys in the worst circumstances. And it does happen in all of our communities. Trust me on that. Some of our boys can't afford post-secondary when they leave. We have relationships with several of our post-secondary institutions. We also are fortunate enough to have some of our patrons who are willing to step up and pay for kids' education, and we have other foundations who also want to help and support these boys. We currently have several boys at BCIT studying trades and business. We have our first boy going to UBC. He's in his 2nd year of kinesiology, and he's going to be a doctor. We have a boy at the Justice Institute out in the Valley who's going to be a police officer, and we just registered one of our boys at a university in the Fraser Valley who intends to be, and I'm sure will be, a very good professional musician. There are 4 key components to the work that we do to both support our boys and spread our message of hope for these boys. And hope is an important word that we use. Hope is what these men, when they come speak to the boys, provide our boys. Hope is an acronym that underscores all the work that we do. The letters stand for H is for hope, O is for opportunity, P is for positive mentors, and E is for education. So one of the things we do is we have a summer camp. We started that 3 years ago. We were really concerned about the percentage of our at-risk boys that we're going to lose completely. So we thought we would, start a summer camp, and we would start off with, 15 or 20 boys seemed reasonable. We ended up with 35. Year 2, we thought we're going to just start at 35. Let's be realistic, because a lot of the guys are going to come back. We ended up with 50. This past year, we thought for sure we're capping it at 50, because remember, we're talking about the 5 to 15% of the most at-risk boys that attend our schools that are in our community. So we're taking on 50 of those guys. We ended up at our peak with 68 this summer. So what do they do at summer camp? Well, they show up every day at 8:30, and they're fed. They have breakfast and lunch. Then they have a series of guest speakers. We have had some amazing people take time out of their lives to come speak to the boys. The coach of the Vancouver Canucks, Willie Desjardins, came out this summer. The kids were blown away. Frank Justra, Trevor Linden, Wally Opal, and the list went on. They also were given instruction, classes in personal finance. One kid said, "Boy, I wish my parents had taken this class." They had classes on how to make good decisions. They had all sorts of classes, professional teachers, instructors, helping us out with that as well. And the boys got to go on field trips. They got to enjoy activities that they might not normally otherwise get to enjoy. The Whitecaps brought them out to a game, field passes. Thank you, Bobby Leonarduzzi, for that. And on this picture here that you're looking over my shoulder, we took them out to a farm that Laura Newbert arranged. It was a kid's favorite trip of the entire summer. We had boys who didn't know why they were getting these pointy sticks and what the campfire was all about. And when they got their first wiener over the fire, they had the biggest grins on their faces. They loved the farm, and that was amazing too. And they were there every day with us from 8:30 to 3:30 and later in the afternoon. Our attendance rate was over 90%. Go figure, the toughest 5 to 10% of the toughest 5 to 10%. We produced a reality stage play called Man Up, which tells the true story of the Boys Club Network. It's our calling card. We take it to communities, and more than 15,000 people have seen it. We've performed it here at the K-Make Theatre. It's been in North Vancouver, East Vancouver, Abbotsford. We left Abbotsford in December after having shown the play there for 2 weeks, and 2 more chapters were established in Abbotsford at 2 of their secondary schools. They're working with the boys out there now. This fall, we're going to be taking the play to Vancouver Island, to Courtney and Campbell River. And in the spring, we're going to take it to New York City because they've got this thing called the internet. And people are finding out more and more about us. And they want to know what we're doing in Canada that's different from what they're doing out there and how we can make that work. We have weekly meetings. I told you a little bit about how that works. But what's cool about this picture is that we're starting to get some of our patrons, some of our mentors who are saying to the boys, I don't mind coming out and speaking to you in your school, but how about if you come out to where I work, and I want to show you where I work and show you what you might aspire to one day. So they've had meetings in boardrooms in downtown Vancouver, out at Helijet, out in Richmond, with a helicopter warehouse, And this one here is in the locker room, the dressing room of the hallowed grounds of the Vancouver Canucks. Francesco Aquilini brought in 50 boys there, and they got to hear Willie speak, and Trevor Linden, and Dan Hamhughes. Do you think that didn't impress the boys? It wasn't just about impressing the boys. As one boy said, "Why do they do this for us?" And the answer was simple: it's because you matter. And of course, there's curriculum. We currently have 2 schools that actually give boys 4 credits, leadership credits. They've adapted a course, a locally developed course, for participating in the Boys Club. We are in the process of actually creating curriculum. We're working with educators in West Vancouver, North Vancouver, Abbotsford, and beyond to create some curriculum for the work that we're doing. Our hope and what we'd like to do is to actually create an elective course, Boys Club Network Leadership course, that can be offered in any high school in British Columbia for schools that are interested in this kind of work, so the boys will all get 4 credits for their work in the Boys Club Network Leadership course, and a teacher will get paid to do that work in leading those boys to become the good men that we know that they can all become. What about the girls? We get asked that question a lot. And you know what? As a father of 2 daughters and 1 son, it's something that not only myself but our team have wrestled with. But I think the answer came to us very clearly this past February. We were presenting at a conference for educators out in Richmond. And a woman approached me and she said to me, I've been studying adolescent girls for 30 years. I'm a professor at Simon Fraser University. I said, that's wonderful. She said, yeah, you know what? I want you to know something. She said, the girls are doing okay. There's a lot out there, but there is such a huge void for our boys. And research has shown me that. She said, you're stepping into a big void, and we need more people to do that because we are losing our boys. And she said, I want you to do me one more favor. And I said, what's that? She said, the next time somebody asks you, what are you doing for the boys, or pardon me, for the girls, your answer must be the Boys Club Network. We are currently in the midst of a 5-year plan. And that 5-year plan is being kicked off out in Abbotsford. Gino Bondi, Associate Superintendent there, is working with us. And what we want to do, what Gino wants to do, is to start an in-school mini-school for at-risk boys at W.J. Mowat Secondary School. How cool is that? We're going to take our message throughout the province of British Columbia. We're doing it with the support of some incredible private sector patrons. Men like Frank Justra. You want to Google somebody after today? Google Frank Justra. The man's a miracle. He lives on the North Shore. He's our greatest supporter and angel. We couldn't do this work without a man like that who believes in the work that we're doing. And side to side with him is a guy named John Mackay, who's helping us with our 5-year plan. We have Matt Wood, Jeff McCord, Richard Jaffrey of the Cactus Club chain. These guys all care about what we're doing. They've all come on board and spoken to our boys. They all believe that the difference that can be made by turning our boys around is going to impact not just those boys, but our entire community. Our families are involved. My wife, Laura, is in charge of communications and development. She's our key fundraiser and communicator, responsible for those things. It's a big load. Our own children who are here today, my 2 sons and my 2 daughters and my son, unless there's something somebody wants to tell me, are here today too. And they're heavily involved. They help out with our summer program. They come and serve the lunches. They help out at our fundraisers. They come out whenever we need them. My friend Jim Crescenzo, who started this with me a few years ago, his wife Tina is an educator. She works with kids who experience learning disabilities. She started working with one of our boys when he was in grade 8. This year, he just finished grade 11, this past June. When she started with him, he was 3 grade levels below in his reading skills. He finished grade 11 at reading level for grade 11 and made the honor roll. Tell me that didn't change a life in the Boys Club Network as well. And I know a lot of the teachers in this room do the same thing for our kids. We have partnerships with other institutions, and we are grateful to everybody. I'm going to leave you with a little story here. One of our speakers finished up his session by saying to the boys, I know what I get out of this. All right? He says, I come in here and I tell my story. You guys love what we're doing. I maybe made an impact on 1 or 2 of you. I feel good when I leave here. I tell my friends and family about it. It just feels good. He goes, but I want to know what you get out of this. You guys, aside from 4 credits for some of your pizza and sandwiches that they feed you, what do you get out of this? Because you come every week, and there's a lot of you in this room. What's happening? Boys put their hands up, and one of these 2 boys, I won't say which one, answered first. And he said, sir, when I look around this room, he said, I know I'm not alone. And that's what the Boys Club Network endeavors to do. We're going to take our word, as I said, on the road very shortly. And we intend in that 5 years to visit at least 100 schools in 15 cities around British Columbia and beyond. And we want all those kids, all those boys, all those at-risk boys to know that they are not alone, that there are men and women that care about them. There are foundations and organizations that care about them because they are not disposable. They are our sons, they are our children, they matter, and that's what we're all about. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. The boys, thank you.